Welcome back to Darren 6772. Well, we got a good one today, folks. We're working on the 1971 Cheyenne and Spanish Gold. Now, real quick, I'm going to cover what I like to do here on the channel. I like to cover things that you just don't find every day. I mean, you can watch YouTube and find people putting on water pumps and C notches and all kinds of good stuff, but I don't find a lot out there. Pulleys. Can you see me? Never can tell. I might have to buy a better camera one of these days. No, not gonna do it. Not today. I want to thank all 9 of you for watching. It's like 7 more than I ever dreamt I'd have. Let's get to the project. I don't see a lot of pulleys and belts and brackets and alignments. And it's something that I think everybody struggles with because I can't be the only one. But I'm going to fight through this today and try to show you how to do things probably wrong. But it'll work. So I'm going to get right to it. To start with the pulleys and alignments, you generally want to start with crank pulley. Now I've chosen crank pulley here is a 3 groove pulley. I'm going to try and get you in a little closer so you can see something. I'm going to describe it. I know there's a lot of shiny black stuff in there and you're going to see it. I'm going to get you in there one way or another. So the crank pulley right here has 4 basic positions. Now I took 3 days to do this and I'm going to cover it in 30 minutes. There's a lot coming up here on this. And we'll go through it quickly and as thoroughly as I can. There's 4 positions, 1, 2, 3, and 4. I think stock came with 2. It's not important. But the reason we have trouble with this is because we started with a GM block and there is an infinite amount of things that were added in different positions through the years. And I'll help try and sort through some of those things to help you guys. To show you the struggles I went through. I struggled. I chose a 3 pulley. Now you can go with the 3 pulley as position 1, which is right next to the harmonic balancer, 2, and 3, or in this case I picked a 2, 3, 4. If you're wondering why, it has to do with counting your pulleys and what you're working with. I know there's one thing I can't do anything about is a water pump. It has to be a long water pump because I used a shiny aluminum cover, and that was because I did a full roller motor. See, everything you do just keeps being a problem or at least something to deal with. So I can't use a short water pump, and that's fine. After getting a new pulley for it, the belts will be in the same position, so that's not really important right now, other than I'll tell you some things about that. So after getting the crank pulley put on, the one thing I can't do is I have a 2 pulley air conditioning unit I'm putting on. It's a Sudan pump, I think it's called. So that was my secondary issue to work with. Once I chose my crank pulley, which I went with, I think this is a little bigger than stock. I can't remember, maybe it's stock size. Not really important, but I think it's bigger. You can buy these small, but we're getting into race applications and I'm not going to cover that here today. If you want me to, leave a message in the comments. I'll tell you what I know about that. And it's not much, so don't look for much. I don't have my gloves on. Got time for that. So after you get the crank pulley figured out, get that mounted, that's where you're going to start from. The next issue is something else that doesn't move and isn't adjustable. And that would be the water pump. So you have to determine, everything else is adjustable, we can work with that later. Yeah, I said it, later, but not much later. So our next issue is what kind of water pump pulley we're going to put on this. I'm going to talk while I grab some gloves, but I wanted a 2 groove pulley to match my system so that I have more belts driving more things because I got a lot going on. So I'll grab real quick the original pulley for this is this big one, and it won't go on because there's interference with the crank pulley because that's a bigger one. So I have to go to a smaller water pump pulley, which is fine because what I was after is having a little more rotation on all my pulleys, and I did that so that the power steering would be a little better power steering. I like a nice smooth rolling power steering. And I wanted my air conditioner to spin a little bit faster at idle. I want this motor to stay cool, and I want me and the truck to stay cool. And you get that by rotating your water pump a little faster. People will argue that, but I can't hear you right now. I can't hear you arguing. And that's fine. You can do it whatever way you want. That's not an issue. Faster water moving gets your water to the radiator quicker. It gets the cold water from your radiator back to your motor quicker. So there's my theory. You're welcome to choose what you want to do. I'm showing you my way, then you can choose which application, how you want to do yours. A little more water flow at idle when this isn't spinning that fast is going to move your water better. It's going to move your air compressor a little better. Everything's going to work a little better, but it's going to cost you horsepower. I know that. That's not my number one concern. It's my second concern, number two. But number one is things working well at an idle. So that's what I've chosen. So let's get the water pump pulled on here. This is a overdriven, that's going to get confusing. Overdriven water pump pulley, which means it will spin a little faster, even with a stock. Yeah, I'm going to look stupid. Even with the stock crank pulley. But I went a little smaller yet, meaning it's going to turn a touch faster again. About 33% is what I ended up with, give or take. You know, I don't know all the mathematics involved in all this to the ounce or how much that. Yeah, that hurt. Got my finger in there. Okay, I didn't say all. I'm not going to cry. Not in front of the camera. I'll cry later. Yep, I said it. Later. So we're in line now. The next thing that's important, we've only just begun, is making sure there shouldn't be an issue, but let's just make sure that we've got everything where it needs to be. What I mean is, get a straight edge against your crank pulley and make sure it sets evenly on your water pump pulley. Just double checking, making sure your crank pulley is on properly, seated, the harmonic balancer is seated properly, and there's your starting point. We got a good square start, our grooves line up. This isn't the best way to line up grooves. How come that don't look right? Nope, that's right. Straight in, straight in the face. We're good every way we can go so far. Good starting point. Now this is where it gets a little bit old, get tired of doing this. The bolts kind of need to be snugged up. If you have, that's the wrong size. If these are loose, it'll cause your pulleys to have a little slop in them, and it will throw off your alignment later. And we're getting to that. Yeah, I said later again, didn't I? All right, so just snugged up. They don't have to be super tight right now. We're just forming things up, fitting things up, figuring out what we got going on. Good start. So what are we going to go with next? I don't know. Well, I got the power steering pump on there. Let's dive into that a little bit. There are at least 4 positions on this on this power steering pump that are available to you. You have a high mount. I got the bracket right here. You got the high mount that goes onto the water pump and raises it all the way up here to this bracket on the water pump. I don't know if I said that twice. Power steering pump to the water pump. This bracket goes in behind there and holds this unit up quite high. And that's convenient for filling and checking your fluids if you don't have an alternator up here. If you have a passenger side alternator, that's probably the best application for that. Now you could have smog stuff on this motor, and there could be all kinds of different things on here depending on what they did through the years or what you have on your vehicle. What I ended up here on this vehicle doing is this is an 80s water pump. If you go with the 67 to 72 water pumps, they won't have this ear here on the bottom, which would be for the high mount, but it's also used for the tensioner. I don't know if you can tell, the tensioner for the power steering on this mount. So I needed that for this style. The next mount would be a mid mount. Comes on these 2 bolts straight over, rather than up here on this mount. I don't know why they did all this. It was for whatever they did. I don't use that one. I haven't. The third mount would be this one, which is the intermediate low. And it might not have been my best choice, but I'll tell you why I kind of need to do it later. Yeah, a lot of laters. And then there's one more mount lower, which is really nice. It sits down here in the frame area. You actually get a little better adjustment. You can get to your fill easier, but it's a whole nother bracket, and it put my pulley way low, which I didn't want. So that I mounted up so you didn't watch me struggle, and that was a struggle. That one was bad. So might as well, I know my head's in the way. I might as well put this pulley on here. This would be our next alignment issue. Okay, that's seated on there, not permanently, but it's seated. So checking this alignment, there could be some movement in here. You can use bushings back in the back side. You might need to tilt it. A lot going on in this area. So let's check that alignment real quick. Grab our handy dandy ruler. You can use any straight edge you got, something probably fancier than me. And again, you set that on the bottom edge of your pulley, and the top edge of your pulley, and make sure it aligns with the pulley necessary to run off of. In my case, if you can see it, I'll try going in the back. In my case, it sets square against it and lines up with the back of the water pump. That didn't happen by accident. I just struggled with that when you weren't watching. And I don't want to, you didn't want to see that. Believe me, you didn't want to see that. Okay, we're at a good starting point. We now have 3 pulleys that are in good square order. Let's go ahead and go with, well, we're on this side, we'll go with the alternator next. Let's get that put on there. I think you can see pretty good there. I'll just leave that right where I can't help it. I gotta move my tripod. It's just, I got to. All right, I'm gonna grab my water. Yeah, it's right there. I keep wanting to say water pump. I'm gonna grab the brackets for this. And this is where things start getting fun. I said fun. Originally, this bracket would bolt right to the head. And that would be the proper placement. It won't work for me. Because in this position, it uses the number 1 pulley on the crank that I don't have, I'm not using. And you might wonder why, and this is a good time to ask those questions. If I try to use that number 1 pulley with this setup of power steering unit, my belt will rub in this tensioner. It wouldn't work. I can't put my alternator on the passenger side because that's where my air conditioner is going. So we have to get some bushings in here, the width of the pulley of number 1, that groove, and put this position in number 2. Now I have some bushings here. Well, they're pipes right now, but they're just for fit up. I'll grab these real quick, kind of show you what I'm doing. What we're going to do, this is temporary. We're just doing fitment right now. When I get done fitting this up, I will make proper bushings on my lathe. I know that's not what you want to hear for yourself if you're doing this. You can buy bushings. They sell them. I just, rather than drive back to the hardware store and paw through some bushings and pay, I don't know, $9 for them. Anyway, too much, and end up buying some junk. I said it, junk. I will get some solid rod and I'll bore out the proper internal diameter, and I'll turn it out so it fits properly on the seat. So it'll be right. It'll be, I shouldn't say right, it'll be good. So let's get this bracket where it belongs. And a couple of you guys, that's the wrong size, of course, may have already noticed that I could still have problems. As every part you do, you look forward, plan in the future and the next part. And I'm already seeing that my power steering pump fill or level checking device, because I don't want to see this. It doesn't fit. You can't get it out. But that's without a belt. Once you put the belt on and I push it over and tension the belt, you'll be in a not great place, but they usually aren't. So here we go. Alternator time. This is gonna, oh, forgot my bolt. This is where things are gonna start getting interesting. I got so many bolts over here I can't decide which is what. But if I get the wrong one, it doesn't really matter. We're just fitting things up. Get that in there. That's too long. It's okay. And I'll get my tensioner, which I already messed up on, didn't I? That's all right. Okay. The tensioner goes on the same bolt. So I shouldn't have tightened it, and I already did. Again, you gotta snug these up to get proper alignment. I can't stress that enough. Spend a bunch of time on this with loose bolts, and when you tighten it down, nothing fits. It will frustrate you further. We don't need more fighting going on. All right. I got another washer. It doesn't matter. Yes, you will. If you're asking and thinking, yeah, you put this together, once, maybe twice. Oh no, you're gonna put this together 4, 5, 6 times. And if you're like me, you're gonna do it 16 times. Let's get that bolt, because I'm already seeing an issue here. This doesn't seem to, I don't know, you can see that. Yeah, you can. This bracket, actually, yeah, the bracket wants to go towards the back, so we might have to do another bushing on that, and I don't know why, to put it on the front. I'll never understand these. Every bracket's just built a little different, might be bent from 50 years ago when somebody used a pry bar on it. I would never do that. Yeah, I have. I have, definitely have. All right, that's on there. Now I did cheat a little bit, so you didn't have to spend a bunch of time watching this. Spent some time, I didn't call it cheating, but I spent some time off camera getting those pipe bushings made up. And all I did was measure the distance of a rib, which was about 3/4 of an inch, and made my bushings so that I should be on number 2 on my crank pulley. So you didn't have to watch all that. And I didn't tighten that. I know I just got done telling you that, but it's not going to be so important on this particular part. I will snug that bolt up a little bit. Let me take my coat off. Can I take my coat off and stay a while? Why don't you guys take your coat off and stay a while? We're making some headway. This is going to be interesting. It might be fun for somebody. Am I ever going to get this truck done? Oh, okay. That's mounted. Check our alignment. Kind of get a feel for it. I know it's not tight. Again, on the face of your pulley, don't look anywhere else, just in the face of the pulley, and then pull it down till it hits, again, watch it up here, till it hits the crank pulley. And I am pretty close down there. You probably can't see. I'm pretty close to my pulley. I might be off just a little, but tightening that up is going to pull that forward. So those pulleys are in line. So far, things are going well. Yeah, that's not going to last. I'm quite sure of it, because we're about to get to the super complicated making brackets, getting things to fit. This is the part where we're going to be a minute. You see the front of the motor is pretty clean. The alternator is in a position where it looks good. You open the hood, I'm thinking in the future. When you open the hood and you look down on this, you can see this red. Yeah, all that red. But you can see the engine, and that's what I wanted. You can see a little bit of chrome pieces here and there. Alternator's off to the side, still looks pretty good right there, as good as an alternator can look. So that's what I'm going for. And now I'm going to take you over here for a minute, if I didn't lose that. No, it's right over here. I'm going to show you what they wanted me to do. When I bought the old air compressor and air conditioning system, this is what they want me to do for brackets. Now, I don't know what you think of that, but I think it's hideous. I mean, mine might not be the prettiest thing you've ever seen, but that's just ugly. You can barely see the motor at all. You can see like maybe a valve cover. Might see my headers better. You can't see the intake whatsoever. I don't even know how the hood would close. I mean, it's a truck, it probably would. Yeah, people, I'm not doing that. I don't like it. That's it. No other reason. I don't like it. Plus, yeah, we're not doing that. So let's get into this air conditioning. This is going to take a minute. So we're starting off here And we got a couple of mounting available places to work with. We have the head, we have these 2 bolts on the water pump, or bolt threaded mounts. We have an eye up here, and we have 2 holes down on the block. Now, we could use the block off plate for the fuel pump. I prefer not to, but you can. That's all cast iron, it'll be good mounting points. So if you need to use them, don't hesitate. Build a bracket off there and do what you need to. We also have the bolts on the exhaust manifold that you can put mounting brackets to. That's been done. First, second, sometimes they even use the third one I've seen on some of the older, large air conditioning pumps. So there's what we have to work with. So let's find a starting point. We know we have our air compressor, or air conditioning compressor, and I kind of wanted to put it right in that bolt, but as you see, it's not going to fit. It's not going to work. Our pulleys have to be in line for our belts, so I kind of need to be behind this valve cover right here. So I need to be somewhere, yeah, out here. I don't like that. What are you going to do? Well, you're going to build some brackets, and I've done just that. Temporary. They are for testing. I mean, this is what I come up with for a bracket. Is that just gorgeous? Not really. I guess it goes this way. There we go. Functionality's first. And that's only got 1 coat of paint on it. I'll clean it all up and take off the sharper edges and all that and put another coat on it later. I said it again, didn't I? Yeah, later. Always something for later. So I found this bracket. Don't know where, don't know what it come off of. I think it was an alternator bracket, but don't quote me. So I'm going to use this bracket, just a bolt I have. Again, I'll get proper length. This bracket, I mean, you could look at it, you could find one like it somewhere. I just happen to have it. And it's a GM bracket, it's pretty bent, everything like that. So I'm going to use it. I'll clean it up too, paint it and everything when I get time. So that kind of gives us a good mounting point. I like that. That's sturdy. It's going to hold the weight of our air compressor. I keep saying air compressor. Of our air conditioning compressor. Good starting point. All right. So now that we have that, sorry about the racket. Cheap microphone. Oh yeah, I don't have a microphone. We've already talked about that twice. So let's see how we're going to put this. Oh, this is going to be exciting. So this bracket I built, and you can build them. It's just iron and some piping and stuff I had around. I'm going to put in here because we know our compressor cannot sit in this bolt line, but it can in this bolt line. Now this flange here you're looking at has holes drilled in it that fit this, and that gives us more adjustment. We might cut it off when we're done, but we need some adjustment for now. So, not later, for now. So we can get this compressor, I'll firm that up so I can move it. We can get this compressor mounted, start figuring out how we're going to make it work. So what comes next? Put this on there. That's going to work. I don't mind that at all. So that bolt goes through there. We got a good start, a little wobbly. We'll get that figured out later. Yeah, there's more stuff for later, always. There's going to be a lot of later with this, my friends. Plenty of laters. So there's our basic design. Now let's keep in mind that these two fill, well, one's inlet and one's return. Air conditioning lines go back to the firewall. And we can put them in any position but except upside down. So we could come all the way in with them on an angle. We technically could go a little flat, it says, and that won't be a problem. So we have room for belt tensioning. We're gonna have to, that's another concern you have is alignment and sizes of all these pulleys. And then you have to figure out how to tighten them. So we have that as a start. We're getting somewhere. So my next thought was, being the era of this, I kind of liked the old, I don't know what they call them, but torsion tensioners, and I thought that kind of looked hot rodish. And we're into the hot rod, not race application, hot rod. So in the hot rod theme, we're going to run a tension across here. Maybe something to hold that heavy compressor. So this is what I've come up with. Using this, great, I can't get my bolt in there. Dang it. Maybe I can sneak it in there. It's like a puzzle. Things have to be done in a certain order. I guess puzzles don't have to be done in order. This does. Maybe I got a smaller bolt handy just for fitment purposes. It appears I do. Let's just do that. A little shorter bolt. Isn't gonna matter. We're just fitting things up. I will get proper length bolts when I put it together for final assembly. What I mean by proper length bolts is you want 3/4 of an inch of thread is a good rule of thumb. That one actually is not bad. So there's our adjuster. Let's see what we're gonna have to hook that up here somehow. So what I've done is I've got this bolt here and this spacer here that we'll put in to this top bracket. Look at there, huh? Not bad, not too shabby, I don't think. I like it. I think it's pretty cool. Gives you that, like I said, old school hot rod turnbuckle. That's what it's called, turnbuckle. Turnbuckle tension. And that's how I would adjust for my belts. And it's square. Come on, that's all right. I like that. I prefer my lines on top. They could be skewed either way. I'm okay with that. So once I bolt this bracket tight to this bracket, or I could weld it, it doesn't matter. We'll see what we need for adjustment purposes. This will adjust, this will adjust. That would likely hold this, and that would probably be enough to keep everything where it's at. This is plenty strong, the bracket's plenty strong. I've got it mounted on 3 bolts. It's not bad. But I like overdoing stuff. It's kind of my thing. So I have a second turnbuckle that I'm going to mount way down. You can't see. There's no way I'm going to get you down in there. But I mount it on the engine block. So now I've got a 4th anchor point. And I've actually got 4 already, including this top link. But I'm going to go with the 5th anchor point. Yeah, it's overkill. I know. I get it. I see it. So this turnbuckle, and I will show you that in just a second. This turnbuckle is going to create problems later on. I mean, it's going to. I know that. Because you've got 2 or 3 adjustment points. And when you end up having any more than 2 adjustment points, you'll have to kind of bounce around and adjust each part separately. And that might be a little annoying for people when they're doing it. But it just takes a few minutes when you're putting a belt on. And if you put the same belt on that you took off or was old or broke, you're only going to have to turn these buckles a couple of turns in and a couple of turns out. At least that's my theory. So I'll give you a quick look at that. Top turnbuckle that you're going to see when you look at the vehicle under the hood. That's going to look kind of snazzy. You got the alternator way off to one side. Got the air conditioner way off to the other. When you look under the hood, you'll have your fan shroud up in this area, and you'll be able to see the aluminum intake, aluminum alternator, aluminum pump, with the aluminum buckle, which I'm going to polish too. So that's pretty cool. Now down underneath, you can see it from here. You won't be able to see this turnbuckle here from on top of the motor. Maybe if you look down in through these holes, my speed holes, you might see a piece of it down in there. But you're gonna have radiator hoses and everything else in there. So I don't think you'll ever see it. It just makes me feel better that I have another anchor point. So I have the main body resting on this anchor point. I have an adjustable anchor point here and one underneath. So we have got a sturdy, not now, but a sturdy locking location for this. Now for the alignment of this. I really won't bore you because I spent 30 minutes doing it and you don't have to watch that. But we placed Again, our straight edge on the water pump, and we come down here to the air conditioner, and we're in line. Everything is the way it should be. You can even go 3 over. You go from the air compressor, the compressor, to the water pump, all the way over to the power steering pump, and we're in line. So far we are in good shape. Now I did make it look a little easier than it was. I struggled. I told you I spent 3 days on this, and you're going to have 30 minutes to see it. So there was some figuring and ciphering and some welding going on here. You probably can tell. So now for the really exciting point. Now that we got our alignment, we've decided on our pulley sizes. This is everything I'm running on this vehicle. I mean, I don't want to have hoses and all that, but as far as running off of belts, this is all I'm going to have. It's all I need. So we have to deal with belts. Now I've got a handful of belts. I don't see that there's any possibility they're all going to fit. It just never works, never happens. Get you squared up here so you can see all of them as I go. I just grabbed one. I don't know which one it goes to, but we can kind of guess. Yeah, not that one. Maybe that one. No, it's a little short for that one. So this must be the one I didn't pick. Probably the alternator pulley, which will go all the way to the back, the number 1 position. Get that seated. It's going to go behind. It's the very first belt that goes on anyway, so it did work out. Behind the power steering unit and around our alternator. Doesn't look like it's going to fit. It's going to fit. Oh, it don't look like it. Huh. Yeah, I do that when you're not watching. What I will likely do, yeah, I'll do that. I kind of want to do it now. What I'm going to run into with this particular setup is this, because I have the high-rise valve covers for the roller rockers. Remember, everything you do different is going to fight you later. Definitely later. Because I put the higher valve covers on this for the roller rockers, I now have a little more interference with my alternator. And I kind of want to use these brackets, so I don't have to make every bracket on the dead blame truck. So what you might have to do on this particular belt is actually take both bolts out of the alternator, take it loose, drop it down. And you know what? I'm not going to talk about it. I wouldn't do it. So when you go to replace this belt, which wouldn't be very often, you might have to take the alternator loose. It's 2 bolts. Not going to be a nightmare of an issue. It's just going to be a simple 2-bolt removal. And you catch the belt on it and then put the alternator into place. Yep, that's not going to do it. All my talking and bragging about how this is going to work, it's going to do it. Just, you're not going to do it in front of you. I'm going to make it do it.